Hi, my name's Dave Such. Welcome to my channel where we talk about all things spiritual. Who are the Pleiadians? Well, when a culture and a society worldwide matures and they learn to live with each other in peace and harmony and learn to live with nature in peace and harmony, their job becomes to help seed life on another planet. So the Pleiadians, from the star system, the Pleiades, are our cosmic parents. They were instrumental in seeding life on this planet hundreds of thousands of years ago. And the Arcturians are their parents, and so they're our cosmic grandparents, the Arcturians. Now, are you Pleiadian? Well, you might be. Let me talk for a moment about the aspects of the Pleiadian culture. They have had technology for several million years, and they went through their barbaric time like we're just coming out of now. And they went through their time of wars and fighting each other, and they matured out of it. And so now they live in this peaceful utopian society where there's no crime and there's pretty much no negativity. They don't like coming here in person very much because all of our fear-based behavior and hatred and violence and so forth, they can feel it energetically, and it's kind of like a foul smell to them. They have a great deal of love for basically all of creation. They are great helpers, so they are ones that are kind of like Pisces, where they like to come and rescue and help people. They really value integrity and honesty. They are nonviolent, and they're extremely respectful of nature. For instance, about 1 million animals die every day by being killed on the road, in our roads worldwide. And the Pleiadians don't have that. They don't have situations that put animals in danger. They don't cut down trees, a living sentient being, which is what a tree is, to make houses out of and things like that. So they have very high technology. They have ships that are here, camouflaged, and they are sort of watching over us, sort of waiting for us to mature. And probably within about 5 years or so, they're going to start making more and more appearances. They're not going to land a spaceship on the White House lawn because that would freak out the world, and maybe our economies would crash and there would be panic and things like that. So they have been through this first contact experience before, and they know what to do and what not to do. They're not going to show up and share all of their technology with us because we would basically destroy ourselves. It's like giving a gun to a 2-year-old child. You just don't do that. So they will come here and help us. They are limited by something called the Prime Directive, where they don't really interfere with a culture that's still developing until they've become a spacefaring culture. They have replicators and transporters and things like that. Now, if this is sounding familiar to some people, you may be thinking, well, this guy's not even making up a good story. He's talking about Star Trek. He's just copying Star Trek. Well, it is rumored that Gene Roddenberry met a Pleiadian, or that a message was given to him from the Pleiadians, because what was the consciousness of our culture back in the 1960s? We had a culture of fear regarding alien life, didn't we? Any movie about flying saucers, they were all coming here to invade us, or to eat us, or to steal our resources, or to conquer us and make us slaves. So we were projecting our culture of violence and being barbaric onto the Pleiadians and onto other aliens who exist in the universe. Well, the reality is about 95% of the intelligent species in our galaxy are either neutral or benevolent, and there's only about 5% misbehaving. And so Gene Roddenberry was given this information to sort of present an alternative to our view of aliens all being violent and using their technology to dominate us or enslave us or to kill us. So they tried to present a more positive spin, and that's probably why Gene Roddenberry was sort of prompted to create Star Trek, to put a different spin, a more positive spin on humanity's future and our involvement in the Galactic Federation. And yes, there is a Galactic Federation, and that came directly information from the Pleiades. So how do you know if you're Pleiadian? Well, you might feel it. If you're really opposed to violence, if any kind of violence really bothers you, you might be Pleiadian. If you watch horror movies, you really like horror movies, you're probably not Pleiadian. That kind of stuff is really distasteful. If you have a high degree of integrity and honesty in the way you carry yourself personally and in business, you would never think of trying to scam somebody. If that kind of thing really disgusts you, you might be Pleiadian. Pleiadians kind of look like us. There's different factions and different races in the Pleiades, but a lot of them look like us. They would be kind of blonde-haired, fair-skinned. You might think they were Nordic or German if you saw one. If you saw a Pleiadian, you wouldn't think it was an alien. They kind of look like us. And that's because we're related to them genetically. Now, I, in another lifetime, was Pleiadian, so Earth being the hardest planet in this galaxy in which to incarnate into, and one of the 3 hardest in the entire universe, when you're a brand new soul incarnating into physical existences, you don't start on planet Earth. It's just like a child who just learns how to walk. You don't start by going up Mount Everest. That's going to kill you. That's only for the expert hikers. Earth is only for the expert souls who have a lot of experience incarnating into physical lifetimes. So you start out on planets that are in peaceful utopian societies where there's no war, there's no violence, and you kind of get used to physical life. And then as you mature and get better at it, you take on tougher and tougher challenges until finally you're in a place like Earth that's one of the toughest challenges in the universe. And so we are more advanced souls in terms of the ones who incarnate. Probably the Pleiadians are less advanced, newer souls, but their physical culture is one of peace and a society that's very utopian and sort of like a dreamlike scenario for what we would wish for our culture and our society. And we will get there. The Pleiadians will help us as our cosmic parents, and then once we grow up, it'll be our job to help seed life on another planet, and we'll be like the Pleiadians. They have some very interesting technologies. They can cross the vast distances of space because their spaceships jump from point to point. So what they do is they accelerate to near light speed, and as there's a tremendous amount of energy pushing against the shields of their ships, they drop their shields, and they use that energy to convert their ships into pure energy, into something called null space. And every physical object has a specific frequency, a specific quantum signature, and a specific pattern. And part of that pattern determines the location of the object. Well, once you convert a physical object into pure energy, you can change that part of the pattern that determines the object's location. And then when it rematerializes back into matter, it ceases to exist in one place and instantaneously exists at another. So it takes them about 4 hours to accelerate to near light speed, and then they jump into null space, and then they change the location of their ship. They communicate with their ships via telepathy. Their ships are alive. They have an artificial intelligence, and so they communicate with their ships and tell them what to do, and then the ship reappears. Now, they have to be at least 158,000 kilometers away from a planet when they reappear, because if you just appear into a new place in time and space and you're too close to a planet, you can knock that planet off its axis or out of its orbit, and they learn by trial and error not to do this. So it takes them about 4 hours to accelerate to light speed, and then, near light speed, and another 4 hours to decelerate. So a trip from the Pleiades to here, which is, light years away, will take them about 8 hours. So we're eventually going to have a relationship with them, but we're still just coming out of the barbaric age and just beginning this new world of love that we're coming into. And so it's going to take a while for them to slowly show up and get to know us and get us to trust them so we don't panic and things like that. Human beings get very frightened by things that are unknown, and so they're going to be very gentle in the way they do everything. Well, now you may be wondering how I came to believe that I was Pleiadian in a previous lifetime. It just didn't come to me in a vision, or I didn't wake up one morning and say, oh, I was Pleiadian. It was sort of a long, slow process, but there were a couple of incidents that really solidified it. So we got to back up a bit, back to my childhood. Apparently, and I don't recall doing this, but my parents told me the first word I ever spoke was bata, which of course doesn't mean anything. And I would repeat the word over and over again, bata, bata, bata. And my parents would say, David, what does that mean? And I would just repeat the word, bata. And of course, later I started speaking and I kind of grew out of that and forgot all about it. Well, here it is years later. I started my near-death experience research, and I was interviewing this one man. It was a 6-hour interview, and he was quite psychic. And he told me, you're a teacher. Now, at this time, I was working as an engineer, but it made sense that he told me I'm a teacher or supposed to be a teacher because my favorite part of that job was training new employees. And both my parents were teachers, so I thought, maybe that's true. Now, he also mentioned a movie called Out on a Limb, and he said you should watch that movie. And I've mentioned it before in other videos. Out on a Limb was a movie done by Shirley MacLaine, 2 parts. You can still see it on YouTube, where she talked about her spiritual awakening. And in that movie, the Pleiadians are mentioned. And I thought to myself, well, who are these Pleiadians? I should look into this. And I found a documentary online about a man named Billy who claimed to have contact with Pleiadians. And this guy who was doing this documentary says this.
Well, Billy was picked up, and he was taken on the ship with him. They went up to the large mothership that was in orbit somewhere around Jupiter at that time. While he was there, he got to meet Ptah. That's pronounced Ptah. And he is the leader, or one of the leaders, of the Pleiadian race. They have several.
Now, I nearly fell off my chair. I stopped and called my father and said, was this the word I said when I was a kid? He says, yes, I think so. And, of course, I remember my mom telling me the story. And I thought to myself, well, wait a minute. I've always been fascinated with this one star system in the night sky. Ever since I was a child, I wanted to be an astronaut when I was young. And I would always look for this one star system in the night sky. It looked like a little chair, and I would call it the old lady in a rocking chair. I didn't know what the star system was called. But even to my adult years, I would look for that star system every time I looked up in the night sky. I was fascinated with it for some reason, like I had a soft place in my heart for it or something. And I didn't think anything of it. And as I'm watching this documentary and I hear that about the Pleiadians, I thought, wait a minute, what was that star system that I was looking at? That couldn't be the Pleiades. So I stop and I Google it, and sure as heck, this is the star system. The old lady in the rocking chair that I was always fascinated with. Was that a coincidence? I don't think it was. So, it's not easy for me to believe things like this. Being an engineer, I tend to be skeptical of things like that. But I got some confirmation that I was Pleiadian because a few years ago, I got invited to be on this channel of this woman who's a well-known psychic and medium. And she told me, you are Pleiadian. So now I have no doubt in my mind that I once lived a life in the Pleiades. And I know it seems strange, but I believe it's true. Anyway, that's about it for today. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments, and I'll do my best to address those questions. And until next time, keep spreading your light and love.